Hello. This is me, May 29th, 2023, 3 days prior to the release of Street Fighter 6. I swear I'm telling the truth. Personally, I like to think of myself as quite a bit of a fighting game enjoyer. However, only the bad ones? There was once a time I was ranked top 1000 in Demon Slayer the Hinokami Chronicles. The game then deleted my rank. Haven't touched a fighting game since. Which is a shame, because if one thing has been made clear to me over my time spent in platform fighters, janky anime games, good janky anime games, is that I understand the underlying philosophy of fighting games, the ebbs and flows that foster success within the genre. But I've just never hopped on the big waves, feel me? I'm a 20-year-old man sitting in the shallow end. I can swim, but I'm scared to try. I don't like Mortal Kombat, plain and simple. I tried and I bounced off very quickly. Guilty Gear Strive scared me upon release, so I passed up on that little roller coaster. And Balls? Oh, well, what else is there to say? But Street Fighter is a slightly different story. Now, having played both the Street Fighter Alpha 3 Game Boy Advance port on a phone emulator alongside the Street Fighter 4 port to the 3DS, I can safely say that I am the harbinger of my own problems. Oops! Who would have guessed? I always gave Street Fighter V the side-eye from afar because of the strange controversies surrounding it. The last thing I wanted to do with my maniacally gamer rage-ridden brain was to jump into an entry that was known for being questionable in terms of design. Okay, I swear my little brain had some kind of logic going on here. But now I have a job and money and a platform where some people care. 4K, baby! Thanks, y'all. Reviews of Street Fighter 6 began to roll in a few weeks ago and were very positive, so I thought that after 20 years of suspicious glances and general neglect, the series deserved a proper chance to win me over. So, I bought it. Technically speaking, I am a day 2 player that will haunt me for a long time. Street Fighter 6 will be my first foray into a true technical mainstream fighting game, so admittedly, I'm a little nervous, but nonetheless excited. After all, what's life without broadening your horizons? Just a tiny little box to comfortably live inside, creating an echo chamber of our own thoughts and opinions. Never braving the outside world to sample dishes on another's table. Well, let me tell you, when they're this sexy, I gotta have at least a little bit of a taste. I didn't write that. In this endeavor, I hope to understand why people have sworn by this franchise for decades, why its skill ceiling is so alluring, and maybe, just maybe, finally come to terms with directional inputs. And by the end of this video, I hope to be able to answer the question, is Street Fighter 6 a good game for newcomers? Stick around to the end to find out. This video is sponsored by Gang Strawham. So full transparency up front, if you haven't already caught on, this video is coming from a layman's perspective, so don't expect 100% accuracy in regards to all the fighting game terminology and concepts. I am speaking for the 99% of people who have never researched frame data and don't plan on it. So you can probably guess that considering this game released like 20 minutes ago, this isn't some sort of insanely complex, comprehensive review, because when it comes to games like this, titles designed for longevity, you can't really provide that until months after launch. At the moment, nobody truly knows if the balancing is on point or the new subsystems will foster competition to rival previous entries. All we can speak on is the immediate experience provided and let our long-term opinions mature over time. All we got is a first impression. So does this game deliver? Well, it was a bit strange, actually. The first thing I was prompted to do was sign in with my Capcom ID, which I do not have. So I had to divert my attention to doing that for a little bit longer than I was comfortable without Subway Surfers. I don't play too many Capcom games, but I have been known to be a Monster Hunter enjoyer on my off days. I don't remember having to ever do this. Well, whatever, not too big of a deal. You're then shown a pretty energetic trailer for the Battle Hub, which is one of the 3 main attractions in Street Fighter 6. I ignored this and opted to better understand the basic mechanics before jumping into the meat of the game. The devs anticipated this approach too, providing a brief yet comprehensive tutorial allowing you to try out 2 of the 3 control schemes, Classic and Modern. Classic is how Street Fighter has always been. You got light, medium, and hard punches and kicks, alongside directional inputs for special moves and supers. Now I'm a little bit of a based fella, so I opted for this first. The other 2 control schemes, Modern and whatever the fuck, are designed to streamline the experience to better ease people into the series. I've always been a trial by fire kind of guy myself. Go big or go home is how you really make an impact. Though I did get kicked off the debate team for that kind of crap. Wow, I hadn't even thought of that. That's a really good point. Counter argument! It is absolutely a good thing that these choices are here, though. One of the many, many reasons that I avoided this franchise for so long is because of how unnerving the skill gap is. Decades and decades of tech having built up over entry after entry, dozens of said entries. To jump in now, do I even stand a chance? And these different control schemes give the ability to shrink that skill gap by just a little, while also still inevitably giving the advantage to the people that choose the skill-based control scheme. For day one, I decided to play solely as Luke, who is the frontman for Street Fighter 6. He's a simple character to learn with a decent layer of depth. I didn't want to overwhelm myself right out of the gate with somebody like Dalsim. I don't fucking know. I overwhelmed myself right out of the gate. Hi-ho, bitch, right into arcade mode. This kicked my ass on normal. I think I had like 5 or 6 resets on my first run, but every mistake I was learning something. Figuring out when to jump to get over projectiles or catch the enemy off guard with a heavy kick, how to approach in the most optimal way to avoid grabs and counter with my own. In general, the game feels really good. Hitboxes are generous, yet still fair. No character I fought seemed overtly busted. Even the more spammable attacks seemingly had weak points and openings. Luke's moveset is balanced well between fast strikes and heavier moves to close gaps or maintain distance. Absolutely the moveset the game expected you to come to grips with first. As I was learning the basics though, one little tick was nagging at my side, installing Lyme disease into my poor body. The big thing I never liked about Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and other technical fighting games is that the directional inputs for specials always felt so inconsistent. Now, I fully understand and accept the fact that this is a skill issue. I got better with it over time. But that begs the question, why do that in the first place? Why not just map them to buttons and remove the skill gap altogether, thus allowing more people to play your game comfortably? And I, the Street Fighter expert, begs the answer. Oh, please subscribe. Oh, please give me all of your money and all of your time and attention, please! They did. The modern control scheme solves my biggest frustration with fighting games by just mapping the attacks to button presses, and I'm still using the classic controls. I am the harbinger of my own gray hairs. Now, I'm the kind of person who approaches a game unsure of how far I want to take the experience. I mean, who knows? Under my lack of experience may just be the greatest Street Fighter player ever. And there we go, another entry to the list. I ended up choosing the classic controls because there's inevitably a higher skill ceiling when you're given full creative control over your moveset, even if there is an adjustment period. And I'd rather just get that adjustment period over right at the beginning. In regards to the combat, the first impressions were very solid. I played through 3 arcade runs with Luke, practiced some of his combos, no-D skills and training, and went online. Now somehow, I actually managed to win my first match. Somehow. Ass kick, coffee break. Ass kick, ass kick, ass kick. 3-game win streak, for some reason. The ball stretcher of Street Fighter 6 players, assing my kick. Through my spotty attempts to keep my gamer rage at bay, I still had fun. After all, there was no real reason for me to get genuinely upset. I was jumping into a fabled franchise, a wet-eared loser. I should have expected to have some major growing pains. And I did. But even then, by the end of the night, I was pulling off some better moves, hopping over supers, heavily punishing with grabs, and slowly gaining a level of consistency with my special moves. I slept terribly and couldn't stop thinking about the game. I woke up, caffeine jittered my way through church, and crashed my car straight into... Hello everybody, this is day 2 Super Hambone, evident by the change in shirt and the funky sock, so it's gotta be a different day. Stop asking questions, we consider that terrorism. On day 2, I made it my goal to try one more character and finally dip my toes into the story mode. As for that new character, I chose Cammy, primarily because I had fought about 100 of her already online, and legs. Cammy is a lot of fun. She's a definitive close-range fighter. Multiple grabs, decent mid-air coverage, and lots of quick maneuvers to catch people off guard. Despite the general simplicity of her moveset, she can be surprisingly tricky to predict, as her forward punch special sends her into the air with multiple potential routes to attack or bail out altogether. It was a nice change of pace. I liked having to rely on my well-timed movements to close gaps in comparison to Luke, who has a bit more zoning potential. I played a lot of online matches in day 2, eventually hauling my PS5 over to my friend's house and absolutely decimating the competition. I don't really know what happened, but that night I was playing like a freaking madman. And mind you, this is at like 2 in the morning, so like most of the people playing were sweats. I even came up with my own victory quote. Luke wins. Looks like I'm more racist than you. One funny thing I noticed is that despite this roster being pretty small, smaller than your average fighting game, there were still multiple characters I had yet to fight online. Characters like Dalsim, Monkey Man, average Russian. Now, I am the kindergarten equivalent of Street Fighter players. Small, ugly, dad owns Roblox. His name's John Roblox. Look it up, don't do that. Do these characters just suck? Or are people only choosing the hot ones? Because if that's the case, y'all are missing out. Now, you've probably already noticed by the footage, but this game looks really good. If we're talking sheer graphical fidelity, not so much, but this is style all the way. Really leaning into that graffiti, street, hip-hop, paint splatters. I like the colors. This carries over into the story mode with fully animated cutscenes really showing off what the models are capable of. Great movement, dramatic facial expressions. The rest of this mode is notable for being way uglier by comparison. Our second of the 3 big attractions in Street Fighter 6 is a full-blown story mode. Think Yakuza, but slightly smaller and a 2D beat-em-up. This combat system works surprisingly well for a more beat-em-up-esque experience. I've played a handful of chapters up to this point, and overall, the experience is pretty good. When compared to what other fighting games have to offer, though, it's a serious cut above. I'd argue it stands by itself as a cohesive package, at least from what I've played. In order to get this video made in a relevant time frame, I'm not going to wait until I've completed the campaign because I'll end up hating it if I rush. But that's okay, it's not super relevant to the point of this video to begin with. It's Street Fighter, but with RPG mechanics. I think that's enough for everyone to know that I like it. But it really did take me off guard how complete this mode really feels. It's got decent character customization, side quests, missable main quests, and a ton of entertaining scenarios that never overstay their welcome. That might be its greatest strength, actually. World Tour is far from a complex experience, so the brisk pace keeps you from getting bored. Nothing is too big, nothing is too condensed. In general, it's an entertaining package I entirely intend to see through to completion, and it adds a huge level of worth to the overall package. If you don't like online fights, this game has you covered with extensive offline modes full of competent AI and strong variety. And if you want to spend extensive time offline to prepare for more competitive online play, then it's not going to feel like busy work. Now, there are a few things that I think could have been handled a little bit better. Most of the non-essential models are extremely ugly. The clothing options all kind of fit the models strange. A lot of the cutscenes are not voiced, which is a shame because the voice work overall is solid. Most of this stuff is cosmetic though, so it's not too big of a deal, right? The content is good, borderline unrivaled for a fighting game campaign. However, I do think this mode kind of shoots itself in its gloriously animated toes right out of the gate by forcing the first chapter to be controlled with the modern control scheme. This is nothing more than a glorified 20-minute tutorial. In the grander scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket, but why? I'd already spent like 6 hours with the classic controls and had mostly come to terms with them, so why make me switch over for such a short period? It nearly killed my motivation to play right out of the gate. Game devs, man. For each innovator and passionate team leader, we have a man with a mask who writes characters around his fetishes. And I gotta ask, where does Takayuki Nakayama sit on that scale? Can I take a guess? After I left the hospital in the morning of day 3, I got right back on my grind and crashed my car into another tree. Oh yeah, but it's real funny how life gives you lemons, stupid bitch! One of the things I really like about World Tour from the perspective of a newcomer is getting to see all of these beloved characters outside the context of killing each other and memes.
Hey there, everybody!
The Street Fighter franchise does indeed follow a story from game to game, the arcade modes filling in the context as to who was doing what. I don't really get much out of that. I mean, the presentation's nice. So to have this fully fledged story that grounds these characters in a world, all surrounding a self-insert, allows people like me, those who are uninformed and ugly, to pull something out of this game from a narrative standpoint. It's for this reason that despite my gripes with the visuals and some of the simple mechanics, it is a great inclusion and a huge boon to the title. Anyways, Ken is a monster! Every character is classified by their biggest strength, whether that be a well-rounded kit, speed, straight-up power. Ken is one of those power characters, and holy crap are his skills a visceral sight to behold. Ken is at his strongest when you catch an opponent off guard and can land one of his special moves with boosted strength from your drive gauge. Because of this, he's prone to running out of drive pretty quickly, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing and plan your moves out in accordance. This isn't too scary of a task though, because Ken has decent coverage. He can zone with his Hadouken and cover the air with a Shoryuken. He's a very solid moveset. His design is also a huge step up from 5, where he looked hideous. His whole story here is that he's been framed for terrorism, and that's why his life was flipped upside down from national champion to hobo. Now that's all I know, because I have zero context on previous Street Fighter situations, and for the near future, I think it's gonna stay that way. Blissful ignorance. Well, at least until my curious mind forces me to go back and play all the games. Oh no, I can already feel it. Day 4 was the last day of play before wrapping up the script and calling my first impressions quits. After all, my intent with this video is not to create some kind of hyper-dense analysis, nor did I have access to the game pre-release. My intent is to chronicle the experience from a completely new player's perspective and judge the title of being worthy of picking up. My goal of the last day? One more character, 2 more story chapters, and delve into the long-awaited battle hub. Can I do it, or will I fall back asleep? Stay tuned for more after this hostage situation fueled intermission. Hi, this is 2020 Super Hambone. Ignore the shirt, I went time traveling earlier. I am a man at the peak of my Hero One's Justice obsession. I love this game with a passion. I was a huge fan of this game, and it wasn't just because I was a fan of the series, okay? It was because the game itself, from a mechanical standpoint, was a cut above everything else the genre had to offer at that time. The roster was huge, with movesets that faithfully and interestingly represented the characters they were trying to represent. I was actually pretty good at this game. My Hawks, unrivaled. Unfortunately, the core problem with this game was the fact that it was simply poorly programmed. There was weird hit detection. You would fall through the floor and through the walls. When you couple this with the fact that the online had a lot of lag issues, this was a game that was destined to be abandoned far before it should have. Unfortunately, the game also suffered from constant, really long, unavoidable combo strings, and this is kind of just a problem with the arena fighting genre in general. But in One's Justice, there are supers that last 20, 30 seconds, and it is just excruciating. It bogs down the pacing so much. A lot of times it felt like you could play to the meta simply by memorizing a single combo and then just spamming that for the entirety of the time you're using that said character. For those reasons, I eventually had to put the game down and move on to games that honestly had all the same issues. I mentioned this game in particular though because more so than other 3D arena fighters, I think this game did a really good job of transitioning the DNA of 2D fighting games into a 3D space. Interesting universal mechanics that every character has access to, a heavy emphasis on grabbing and cornering your opponents. Unlike the Ultimate Ninja Storm games, for example, characters are defined by more than just their special move, and a few unique attacks that are probably shared with other characters in the game already. It was for those reasons, it was for that mechanical depth that I fell in love with One's Justice in the first place. It's just that the problems eventually pushed me away. Street Fighter is and always has been the fighting game franchise. So the DNA that I loved in One's Justice is absolutely, completely present here. However, it's actually done with competent programming. Street Fighter 6 has good netcode. It's got good balancing. I'm not falling through the floor, as you can clearly tell. Finally playing a game that fosters that competitive spirit in me again, where I'm not falling through the floor, and I'm not constantly being bogged down by lag issues, it's really good. It feels nice. Thank you very much, my fellow viewers, for sticking it out through this short intermission. This has been sponsored by George Foreman. Even he doesn't know what you'll do next. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go take a 5-minute break for 30 minutes before getting back to my script writing. Another thing I really love about World Tour are the wacky little conversations you get to have with all the characters that you meet. As you use a given character's moveset more and more, you unlock more of their abilities, chances to spar against the rest of the cast, and tiny little interactions that are always just so goofy. I didn't get this on camera because I'm really bad at remembering to hit the record button when I'm using my PS5, but one of the combos you unlock for Luke is him talking about his addiction to a little mobile match 3 cat game on his phone. What a little guy. What a fella. My 4th character ended up being Lily, one of the newcomers, and also a little girl. Though to find little, is it like a requirement for every Street Fighter character to have legs big enough to squash watermelons made of rock? Lily is a character designed to be easily accessible, evident by the fact that she has actual weapons. Her moveset allows for some interesting maneuvers and the ability to cover a lot of ground very quickly. However, you're also encouraged to put distance in between you and your opponents in order to charge up 3 wind attack boosts. She's pretty fun, but unlike the 3 other characters I played, I don't really get main energy from her. I guess I just prefer more straightforward bruiser archetypes. What I'm saying is I really like huge, muscular men. So we've covered story mode. It is a great addition to the package and functions well as a standalone experience, and considering that arcade mode is primarily just a way to fight fights back to back, it is good. What about that persnickety little battle hub?
And yes, I am aware that I used that word wrong.
Well, in total honesty, I don't really think this is something I'm gonna see myself visiting all that often, but that's also because I don't tend to be a super social gamer. As a concept, this hub world area is really cool, interacting with other players, going up to challenge people at arcade cabinets, touching each other's toes. Oh shit, wrong script. Playing old Capcom games, signing up for tournaments, just being a little fella. All of this is pretty sick and fun. In general, I think this mode is going to provide a lot of entertainment to a lot of people. It's not a necessary inclusion, but it absolutely breathes life into the online experience, giving you a chance to see the face behind the name. It alleviates my gamer rage just a bit. And it seems like quite a bit of the emphasis is going to be placed on the Battle Hub when it comes to challenges for the Battle Pass. Oh, never mind, this game sucks. So, to finally answer my question from about 15 minutes earlier, is Street Fighter 6 a good game for newcomers? Yes. I do have some concerns regarding the monetization practices though. All of the character costumes can be obtained in-game, and all the alt colors can be bought with in-game currency, kinda sorta, but the Battle Pass does have me concerned. I'm not a fan of these in any situation, but provided that it ends up all being cosmetic, I'll give it a pass. I have been wanting to return to fighting games as a genre for a while now, but I wanted to play an actual good game. One that wouldn't have me blaming the input delay, one that would have stable online, one that had good hitboxes and doesn't make me want to kill myself in every situation. And would you believe it? I finally found the one. She's so beautiful and she doesn't ask me to bark. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see where this game goes in the future, and best case scenario, I'll be at the top of plat by the end of the month. Any person who donates at least $5 to my Patreon right now will get a shout out when I win my trophy at EVO.